Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Um, haven't done just a generic talk about a concept in a while, but I finally got around to watching all of the creator responses to Simtexagon's shield gating video, which is, I don't know, notorious now. I'm getting pretty impressed with Simtexagon's ability to get people riled up about something that is kind of a lukewarm take on the scenario. Uh, the creators, I get where they're coming from, but I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in so you guys that just like listening to me in the background maybe will at least see my perspective on this. Because the fact is I agree with Semtexagon on the original concept of shield gating at a minimum needs to be adjusted, and health tanking needs to be flat out fixed. In terms of like the easiest temporary solution is just count the level 30 bonus health and armor and energy or whatever the ranking bonus is as base, and then let the health, armor, and energy scale off of that. Whatever the bonus that the frame gets for leveling is just count it as base health and let it scale from there. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole nuance bro aspect. There's plenty of elitist groups that can claim, like, oh, shield gating is a mechanic. It absolutely is. It is a tool in, like, a toolbox that has a ton of variety in it. But my issue with it isn't the mechanic itself. It's the fact that so much of the higher end content, once you get past, say, like level 1000, I know of a couple of builds that can face tank 2k, 3k, no issue. But the issue is that I can do it, and that's what this video is going to be about. Is it's going to be about the individual and the mechanics available for an individual to enjoy Warframe. For those that don't know, I'm a clan leader. I'm an alliance leader. And what this video is going to focus on is the concept of shield gating and survival mechanics at higher levels, particularly with Cascade, because not a lot of people in my alliance care to do long endurance runs. Generally, if we're going to be doing like 6 hours worth of endurance runs, it's because we did like 2 or 3 rotation Cs popping relics. And it's at a node where we need the resources there, and there just happens to be a good relic, right? But we're not doing level cap survivals anymore. Who has 8.5 hours to sit in a survival? If we're going to do a level cap, it's going to be Disruption or Cascade are really the only choices for anybody with a life, right? Here's the issue, though. Shield gating works, and just to be clear, because obviously there's some creators that are pretty big on this, the mechanic that I am specifically referring to is repeatedly recharging using the auger mods through the expenditure of energy, creating shields to where you can either get a partial shield recovery, still blue shields, or ideally get just into overshields, because there's a mechanic in Warframe where if you have blue shields, full shields, or partial less than max, you will have a 0.3 second period where you will go from losing your shields. There would be a 0.3 second barrier that will prevent you from taking health damage. If you have overshields, it's 1.3 seconds. When I am referring to shield gating, oh, and by the way, that is, unless the frame doesn't have a shield at all, the only exception to that rule, I'm pretty sure, is just Hildren. unless I'm literally forgetting something. Gauss, I guess, right, can modify it, but his base shield gate is the same. And I'm ignoring focus schools also, because obviously that can affect it also. But with Gauss, you can affect the recharge delay, allowing you to significantly more easily get the shield gate. But the mechanic that I am referring to is expending energy to generate shields using Brief Respite and the Augur mod set to trigger the shield gate again, or to reload one, if you will, because anything with a shield has shield gate, right? Anyway, so the issue is the actions per minute, where most people, like a lot of the creators, is just sort of like, oh, you don't even need shield gate, you have like rolling guard or like Xenuric's protective dash. Let me tell you what the actual issue is. There are people that aren't in their 20s that play this fucking game. Okay? One of the most frustrating things is that health tanking does not scale up to level cap. There is no build that can get you to level cap. Except for what? You've got Rhino, Revenant, there's a Nezha build that can face tank 6Ks, but the issue is energy leeches kill you. And those are the main three, right? That don't need shield gate. So the issue is the actions per minute required, and that's what I'm going to focus on with this. Because Brief Respite and the shield retriggering mechanic exists, and because it's so abusable nowadays, because energy is so readily available, where before we kind of relied on Equilibrium and Energize as our main sources of like rapid energy acquisition. I guess besides like Spectra Siphon and whatnot. But because of the Helminth, energy is no longer an issue. There are builds that can suck up 2k energy a minute, which is kind of insane when you think about it. Not the fact that you can spend 2k energy, but the fact that you can recover it that fast also. Well, there are people in the clan and alliance who physically cannot perform these actions. And just to put it on par, like with like to stabilize it against something to compare it to, there are several people in my clan and alliance, not in my clan, in the alliance, who physically cannot perform the actions that are required of them to complete the Ureli quest. Because of like medical issues and age. Not combined, but separate, right? They're too old. They physically cannot do the combinations required to complete the Ureli quest. So shield gating is supposed to be on a tool that they can use. The only way these people can enjoy anything over 1k is if they're running Revenant or Rhino. Legitimately. Like, or use a stealth frame, right? So the idea of shield gating and the fact that it's so reliant on gaining access, you're so reliant on using that mechanic or Xenuric dash or Revenant, Rhino, or invisibility frames to access an hour and a half run in Cascade, which some older people are definitely trying to do, but they can't because they don't have the literal physical coordination to do this. It's maybe it's something that just like maybe I only see, but in our alliance, we have several big clans, like larger clans where it's like my clan individually is like just shy of 100, and then there's another one that's like just shy of 300. But most of the clan is smaller ghost clans, and what they literally are is like a brother and sister, or maybe it's like a guy and his wife, and then like a couple of friends that they know from real life, and then there's even one where it's grandma, um, her kid, and the grandbabies are in a clan, so it's like a 6-person clan. And then there's another one where like the clan leader is like in retirement age. Well, if these people want to do level caps because they finally see Cascade and go, wow, that's pretty cool. You know, it's not an 8-hour run and it's not a 3-hour run. Like they can't do a survival because they can't do a disruption because of the time commitment, and they want to do it with friends. Well, they don't have access to this because, as far as I can tell, it's you don't have the option of playing your favorite frame. You have to pick Revenant Rhino, go invisibility, or have the coordination to shield gate and use protective dash, or get fucked. So, because health tanking is so geeked, it's not an issue of endurance, which is a smooth brain take. That is not the issue that people are running into. Because everybody saw Cascade in my alliance that was even remotely interested in going to level cap and was like, oh shit, that's not a disruption run because I don't have 3 hours, but I can do an hour and a half. Like the clan leader of one of the larger clans in the alliance, like, has a kid. He can't do an 8-hour run. Like, you can't pause the game with 4 people. But they enjoy Warframe. They've played Warframe for years. But the time requirement is too insane. There's no group pausing where it's like a 4-person pause. I mean, shit, they got that in CSGO, and the other team can agree to it. But we don't have that function. And we don't even have health, like any sort of health gating or like it. As mean as it is, you could fix it with a couple of mods. Like what World of Warcraft does. You just scale additively. Every time a new expansion comes out or a new update, however you want to view it, every single time you just get a new mod that is flat health, flat shields, flat armor, and it's stronger than the last updates. So when you complete the quest, as mean as that is, like you can just shove it off into like a second Exilus slot to like smooth brain fix it. Not saying you should do that, but it would fix the issue, because the issue is that the survival mechanics for a newer player aren't apparent. And then you have the older crowd, which actually goes, you know, it's been like 6 years since I've been playing Warframe and I've never done a level cap. And they don't have access to it because all of a sudden they don't have the coordination because they've gotten old. So anybody that's claiming, oh, shield gating is bad, at an absolute minimum, somebody who's claiming it's not an issue or saying like, oh, you're nuancing out of it, you at least got to admit it requires a certain level of coordination that somebody in their 70s isn't going to have. You're going to claim Zenert Protective Dash. You're going to claim, use Rhino, Revenant. Oh, casting Molt to get your shield gate back. It's a Helminth. You can easily shield gate with it. Unless you have a frame. Like, if you, like, say you like I'm a big fan of Nezha. Say I'm using Mag right now. Has a shield recover, right? Refresh shields. There's ways to get it done, but it requires coordination. They can't do the inputs. So, that's my frustration on it. Like, the rebalance that some Texagon was talking about, I'm not against it. Like, say I disagree with, like, one of the mods. It doesn't even matter. They gotta rebalance it. I've thought for a long time that Warframe was starting to get so much damage because they nerfed the enemies so hard. We now have so much damage that it is alarming when something has the ability to one-tap you, because you're not used to it anymore. You're not used to getting one-tapped like you were, like, I don't even know what you would say, Melee 2.0. when there was no shield gate and what only Hildren had it, and before Hildren, right? Where you could just get one shot. So invisibility was king, and Rhino and Revenant were the only ones that had access to level cap, basically. Especially before Focus. So the issue that I see is that the leveling or the scaling isn't apparent. They just need to put something in that is very physically apparent to somebody that's learning the game. Oh, you got to the sacrifice. Oh, you completed new war. Here's your new mod. It just goes on every frame. You upgrade it. Once it's upgraded, it's stronger than the last one. Like it's 10% increase each time. And it's literally just flat bonuses. And that would be the most smooth brain way of dealing with it. And it would just fix it. It would make some mods irrelevant, but hell, we've had that in the past before. You know what I mean? It's just the issue is that a grandma that enjoys Warframe now has grandkids that are trying to do level caps, and she physically can't join them because she doesn't have the coordination. So say what you want about shield gating, but the fact is it's taking up too much of an excuse to not fix other stuff. So at an absolute minimum, you got to agree with that. Because any other coping mechanism you might have is going to require the coordination that some people that play Warframe just don't. So anybody who says like, oh, well, they can't play Warframe, then remember, you get old too, pal. So they need to do something with some form of health tanking. It can't just be, Vulpaphilas sacrificing themselves, right? Or at least give us a way to, like, re-trigger it faster, but then that gets into the whole thing of it being, highly abusable. Everybody remembers, energizing quick thinking. Used to be no cooldown on that shit. That was the meta. But no, the shield gating, it needs to be a tool in a toolbox. It can't be one of 5 tools, though. Let's say 6, 7. Because the issue is people got bad wrists. They gotta have something like, shit, League of Legends, they got a Malphite. We got a Rhino, but it's not an interesting character anymore. Get Iron Skin, make sure you have like a couple of mods, and you can get to level cap. Like Rhino Skin is incredibly durable. But the fact is that the trying to keep up and like you have all the stuff going on in Cascade. There's so many visual effects going on. I'm seeing a hard argument, unless your entire argument is get rid of those people. So shield gating is like the 10mm, socket. I get it. It's the main mechanic as a panic button. That and rolling guard combined. If you're most of the time, if you're doing like a level cap or something like that, like shield gating, rolling guard, and like protective dash is like the gold standard trio to take of oh shit buttons. But if you don't have the coordination to pull those off, they don't count as options either, right? So it's Revenant or Rhino. And that kind of sucks. Like, what if you like Titania? There's a specific play style attached to it. You can certainly get Titania to level cap. But if you don't have the coordination to it, I'm just saying that we need something for health. So you're not so reliant on those sort of I win buttons with the iframes, which is basically the entire argument for it. Revenant is iframes, and like when you take damage, right, you consume a charge sort of thing. Rhino, you get iframes when casting Iron Skin. Then you got the shield. Shield gate. damage prevention, but let's be honest, toxin procs, that shit's gonna kill you, especially when you have to turn the effects down at higher levels. I don't care how good you are, you're gonna accidentally walk into a toxin cloud at some point. Um, and protective dash and rolling guard, it's just, for some people, it's way too much coordination. It's 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 too much. There needs to be something that's like Malphite of League of Legends, where it's just, you just kind of lumber along, and you don't even have to Rhino skin. Even if you make the character extremely boring, like the character is just insanely durable. The closest thing that we have right now to something that can just blindly trudge along is probably Baruch. He has an insane amount of damage reduction on him, but it's not a frame that's designed to. And Inaros, you can get a couple million EHP out of him, but level cap, that ain't a lot. Like, you need those iframes to break everything up, and the CC doesn't matter as much because the Eximuses are probably killing you, right? I know I have a huge problem with the Noxes close to level cap. They seem to be the only thing that can kill me. But it is what it is. But the whole nuance bro thing, I saw some really weird takes from like some of the creators, and man, it was echo chambers echoing. Like, you can say whatever you want about it, but the fact is there are people who aren't in your chat rooms, guys, that play the game, who have like 9 to 5s, aren't college kids, have kids, and those people don't have 20-year-old reflexes. So saying the only time there makes a difference is endurance runs. No, it matters too when people are just trying to get their first level cap in, and their first time trying to do it is they're looking at like Cascade. Or maybe a disruption run, because there's no way in hell somebody with kids that enjoys Warframe is going to be able to do an 8-hour run in a group. And 3 hours is pushing it, but maybe they could squeak in an hour and a half. So the issue is coordination. It's I understand Warframe wants like high APM to make it interesting, and for whatever reason they're on this tangent where you can't stand there, which is kind of a weird take. Like, I understand they don't want people AFKing, but like, what's the AFK timer down to? Like 1 minute? 1 minute? Like, I get that, but going from AFK at 1 minute to one of my clanmates getting a hard warning from DE that they AFK'd in a mission where it was with me and one of my other clanmates. I don't see anything wrong with somebody running a Necros and going, oh, I need to answer the door. We're all fucking adults. But he gets a hard warning for something like that? Get the fuck out of here with that. Especially when we're all okay with it. You want to take that magnifying glass and shove it up your ass. Especially if you're going to be making bad calls like that. Get the hell out of here. We were all in Discord. So, the fact is, I'm not going to be too salty about it, even though I am. But DE needs to figure out who the hell they're making this game for. If they're going to make it for 20-year-olds, they need to make it for 20-year-olds. If they're going to make it for 15-year-olds, they need to make it for 15-year-olds. And they need to let everybody know, because it's just, the fact is eventually we're going to get old. Okay? And like, even on the thing where it's like, Rebecca said she hoped to be able to make a game where her kids in 10 years could play the game and see like what mommy worked on. Well, let me ask you, what happens if your kid wants to get into level caps and you're 45 and don't have the coordination to do it anymore? You can't play with them. Because our mechanics are, you got Rhino, Revenant, Invisibility, or, don't do it, right? Anyway, salty takeover. Nothing too incendiary. It's just, hey, listen, people get fucking old. And if people are, being hypercritical like that, like, maybe you need to shout it. Normally I'd keep this opinion to myself. It's pretty bullshit. But the fact is I have people that want to do level caps and physically can't because of the mechanics that are in the game. They literally do not have the coordination to do it. They're too old. Because shield gating exists, and DE is saying, oh, it's a fine mechanic. Well, there needs to be more, okay? There's nothing wrong with layering 5 or 6 things. Just make it so you can equip them all at the same time. Like, doing health tanking is fine because it requires so many mods. Shield gating requires like 2 or 3 and allows your frame to be stronger in exchange for higher APM. Like, if you want to tone it down, make it more mod required for shield gating. But then people will bitch. But shield gate or health tanking requires a ton of mods. Like, my Neja is triple Umbra, adaptation, health conversion, blessing, grace, equilibrium, and hunter's adrenaline. And maybe I'll swap it. Oh, and reaping chakram. All to get health orbs. It's a health tank. But if I shield gated Neja, I could run 300 power strength without a care in the world. And for some reason, that build does better than mine at level cap. Like, if I invest 10 mods into tanking, I should be able to survive something that's at, like, a really high level. But that ain't the case. It eventually falls off. Like, I can get Neja to, like, 6k now. It's almost like a level cap face tank. But the issue is like, eventually I'm going to get too old. My coordination's going to fail. I know several people right now that are having to do, like, pillage builds in order to be able to shield gate because they can't shield gate with their coordination because they've just gotten old. Like, they're having to do shield pillage builds so they can cast it. It'll cost energy. They'll get a shield gate. It'll come back. They'll get a shield gate. Like, that's how they're having to do it. But it's not because they want to. It's because it's the only way to survive easily in that type of content when your favorite frame isn't a tank. Doesn't have the damage reduction of, like an iron skin where it can absorb it, or like a revenant where it has the mesmer skin where it can literally just, turn your brain off and make it work. Listen, people get old. There needs to be something health tank wise. They need to fix it. Even if they leave shield gate in. Hell, my full tank Neja is also a shield gate frame. And especially with them releasing higher shield amount frames, listen, if you're going to do that, listen, they better be able to survive. And obviously you can make it work with specific abilities, but it's just using more expensive abilities to shield gate or cheesing with the helmet system. So anyway, hot take over. There needs to be a build. I don't care what it is, but like DE Steve needs to be able to level cap with it. I want to see that 60-year-old dude, or however old he is, level cap with it, because I need to see his coordination doing a level cap. Because that's the issue. It's got to be an old guy or gal. I don't care. But some college kid doing it. Yeah, I could do that shit too. But listen, I'm mid-30s. My coordination ain't what it used to be. It's still pretty good, but it ain't 21, 22. But anyway, they need to figure something out. Shield gating it's not the only game in town. The shield gating mechanic of regenning health through energy expenditure and like rolling guard and like focus schools, whichever one you got. But there needs to be something that is at least 90% of damage neutralizing abilities. Like, it's supposed to be a panic button. It's not supposed to be 60% of level cap experience. And anybody arguing that, like, oh, just take Revenant. Yeah, let me see how far that gets you. After, like, the 20th run, the only people that run Revenant every time is people that run, like, the same Incarnon weapon every time. Like, or people that are trying builds, or trying weapons, and just want to try the weapon. Like, we'll take a Revenant. So it's just, it is what it is, man. Anyway, rant over. Take it easy.